Hello again, everyone. It's Ariel Helwani here on this Monday afternoon. And like I said last week, part of the tradition before a Conor McGregor fight, we speak to his head coach, the head man over at SBG Ireland, John Kavanagh, and after his fights, win or lose. Remember back in 2016, after the first Nathan Diaz fight, there he was on Monday to talk about what happened, win or learn. We learned a lot of lessons, and of course, that led to the rematch. And so I'm very thankful that he is back after a disappointing weekend. He's back in Dubai to talk a little bit about what happened at UFC 257 when Conor McGregor fought Dustin Poirier. First off, John, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it as always.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
So first things first, I mean, I think the biggest question is, and I've seen a couple of posts, but how is Conor feeling? Obviously, we saw him walking out limping with the crutch for a little bit. How's he feeling? How's the health? How's the leg?
Yeah, the leg is okay. It's going to be a couple of days before he's walking without any hindrance, but there's no serious damage. That peroneal nerve that runs down on that side of the leg, which was kicked a number of times, it was completely dead, and then the leg started filling up with blood as well, restriction. So he couldn't move on it at all. It's ironically, I've actually tweeted about this particular injury. It seems to be getting, it's popping up its head in a few different MMA fights. It happened Chandler in one of his fights in Bellator. It's happened Cejudo when Demetrius kicked him there. It's called a drop foot, where you actually can't send a signal down to your foot. You can't move it, and it's pretty miserable. But as of today, he's in good form. He did a very tough workout this morning. He's already looking for the next date, which we hope to get sooner rather than later. He was pressing for a busy 2020, and nothing has changed. He wants a busy 2021. So I hope we can get the rematch. That would be the ideal. If it's not that, well, then I'm not sure what it would be. Whether it's a different MMA fight or a boxing fight, I'm not too sure of that. But spirits in general are very high. I did a video for the Win to Warrior program. I have it on their Instagram, where I spoke about it's a funny one, and he said it himself at the press conference that you feel upset. Of course, you're disappointed. You're a competitive person. You want to win. That's the whole point of this, is winning. But you can certainly live with it when you've done everything you possibly could. And it softens the blow when you really put your full effort into it, which he absolutely did. With regards to everything, with regards to training, the nutrition, he did his best with the promotional work, fight week, and everything that's asked of him, showing up early for nearly everything we were doing there fight week. Went to the arena, warmed up, made the walk, fought hard. Have to fix this issue of checking that particular type of technique. But what more can you ask of anyone? And I think it's a good. I always thought the point. I know you're big about your the Bills, and people love supporting their teams. And I think the point of all that, the point of professional sports, is that it gives us a bit of a lift, and we hope that they act in a way that's inspiring for us. And I know for me, when I look at Conor, the way he dealt with the loss, his attitude towards it, it's uplifting for me. And I think for any of us, is that if we're afraid of trying something new, if we're afraid of going for a job interview or doing our own little competition in something, because of the fear of failure, freezes so many people. They just don't. I get so many DMs where I chat to people about the dealing with anxiety issues and having fear towards looking silly in a group of people, about falling down. And when we see someone like this that can do it with such grace, and I think it gives us that we shouldn't be afraid of losing. It's not the end of the world. Failure is not fatal.
Very well said. And you said a lot there. A few things that obviously I want to expand on, but I actually want to start before the fight. Obviously, anytime you talk to a fighter or coach before a fight, usually things are going well. It's a great camp. They're not going to tell you about any mishaps or injuries or whatnot. And you just touched on the fact that he had done all the work, but leading into the fight, now that the fight is over, could you tell us, like, were you 100% confident, or were there any issues? Were there things you were concerned about this time around? Did you feel, okay, we have done it all. He is healthy. It's been a great training camp. We did not cut any corners.
Yeah, I can tell you, I have never seen him as dedicated, as motivated, training with an intensity for as long a period of time. You know, this was the year he was tipping along, but it really started becoming like fight camp training 6 months ago. That's more than he's ever done in his career. You know, the Eddie fight was a beautiful fight where he won the second belt, and he didn't have as long and arduous training camp for that as he did for this. No, I can absolutely hand on heart say Dustin bested the best Conor I've ever seen.
Conor mentioned, and I'm asking you about something he said after the fight, but it's really about the mindset going into it. He said after the fight, I need to be active, guys. 40 seconds since October of 2018 leading up to this fight. It's just not enough. Was the inactivity a concern for you? Were you worried that he would be at all rusty?
He does so much sparring that you hope that there's not going to be ring rust because he's getting the rounds in. But again, somewhat ironically, this particular technique is one that's almost impossible to replicate. Like, the fact that Dustin threw it is not that's surprising. It was certainly part of our training, was dealing with leg kicks. How devastating a technique was somewhat caught us out. And in the gym, when you're throwing that technique, you're not going to try and kick your partner as hard as you possibly can. Mm-hmm. And you're also both wearing shin pads, thick shin pads. So if I kick you in the shin and you kind of point your knee out a little bit, our two pads will hit each other, and you can build up a false confidence that, like, I feel it, but it's not that bad. And then it's only in fighting that you get with tiny gloves and no shin pads, So like you said, from October 2018, what are we coming up to 2.5 years almost? He had 40 seconds of feeling what kicks feel like with no pads on, and punches feel with 4-ounce gloves. And I don't think he was actually even hit in the Cerrone fight, was he? I don't think so.
No.
So yeah, that is one thing that you cannot replicate. We some pride ourselves on our simulation fights we have in the gym all the time, but they're safe. You have to be safe, otherwise the athlete can't make it to the arena. You couldn't be sparring with 4-ounce gloves and no other padding on. Someone's going to get a cut or an injury. So you've got the head guard, you've got big gloves, you've got big shin pads, and yes, you can simulate all the techniques and get your timing and your distance control and so on, and you can certainly grapple very hard. I was really happy with his grappling in this. But one thing you're not going to feel is the pain of those kicks, because we're not going to do that in the gym, and then you can't walk for a week. So it was not, like I said, it was not a surprising tactic, and I've got endless hours of footage of sparring on my phone where we'd southpaws throw that kick. We had the great Keane Cowley over here, one of Ireland's best Thai boxers, and we had him doing that the whole time. But you don't respect it as much when you don't feel it without the shin pads on.
Mm-hmm. Before we got to the kicks, relatively early in the first round, Dustin took him down. Didn't do too much damage with the takedown, but there was a struggle there. Conor did a great job, got up against the cage, got back up, but then he was in the clinch for a while. And it did seem, actually, right after that, Dustin was a little tired after that clinch work, but Conor maybe as well. Were you surprised? A lot of people said, yeah, of course, it would be great if he takes him down. That's maybe the path to victory here, but that's not Dustin's plan of attack usually. Were you surprised that he went for the takedown that early in the fight?
No, not at all. Again, very much expected this to happen. He did a couple of takedowns on Justin, got him with the exact one that we thought he would do, which he did on Justin. But in Conor's defense, his back never really touched the mat. He scooted along, got himself to the fence, and we're actually very, very. He's amazing at that technique of in the Seaver fight. If you remember, there's a few similar kind of takedowns, and again, back never touched the mat. He just got straight back up again, and it's very, very draining for your opponent. More draining for the person trying to initiate, trying to do takedowns than it is for the person defending. So not only were we expecting that, we're kind of hoping it would happen because it would drain Dustin. There was actually a very funny moment. I don't think the camera angle caught it, where when they were grappling on the fence, standing, Conor hit him a knee in the stomach, in the belly, and he caught my eye, and he went, "Ooh!" So he acknowledged it was a good shot. As for Conor getting tired, I would debate that. At the end of the round, if you noticed, it was his first time. He didn't actually use the stool.
Yep.
He stood in the corner with me.
Yep.
He said he just never had felt as good, with the heart rate coming right down again. So that was nice that first of all, the type of training he's doing with fast paid off. And we did the simulation rounds enough that he felt it was transferring over into competition. There wasn't a massive difference there. Sometimes people can do many, many rounds in the gym, and then they do one round in the octagon and they're very tired. So that wasn't the case. I put the stool down, and he just looked at me like, what do I need that for? And I was like, yes, we've got this.
Do you wish he took the stool? Do you wish he you wish he sat down because of the leg kicks? Does that even matter, that minute of rest?
No, I took a lot of positivity from it. I was like, kind of like, yes, like he's clearly not feeling even the beginning of tiredness. Mm-hmm. And I felt at the end of round one, this is probably going to go, this is going to be a long fight, because he landed a couple of shots. Now, I thought there was once or twice where Dustin wobbled a little bit. So, the finish would come, but let's not chase it. Let's not get too overexcited. And, if we're going to be doing 3, 4, 5 rounds, it's nice to see at the end of round one, you don't even have to sit down.
To that point, I'll be honest. Again, I mentioned Ali Quinta because he was harping on this all week, and he actually posted a video on Saturday morning saying it felt like Conor was leading the dance all week long. Like even at the face-offs, Conor goes down, Dustin goes down. It just felt like Conor set the tone, and then Conor tweets, Dustin tweets, and it to me felt like Conor was, like I said, leading the dance. And even at the press conference, I felt like Dustin was a little timid, but maybe that's just who he is. And I wondered, even at the beginning, okay, I'm trying to see like how his body language is reacting. And I'm wondering if you felt the same way. Once he took a few of those shots from Conor in the first round, do you felt like his confidence grew, like he was able to finally put to rest 6.5 years ago? And he's like, you know what, I could deal with this. Because Conor hit him, as you said, with some really clean shots. Were you at all worried when you saw him not go down or not, react to the punches as he did 6.5 years ago, that maybe his confidence was going to start to grow?
Not really. Like, I to be honest, I was very confident at the end of round one.
Okay.
Like you said, he hit a takedown, but didn't really solidify it. He got back up. So in my head, I thought he's probably not going to try a whole lot of more takedowns, because Conor dominated the clinch aspect of it. And like I said, it's quite tiring trying takedowns if you don't really get anything out of it. Maybe if it took Conor down and got a lot of ground control, he would have thought to himself, let's keep going back there. So from my point of view, I thought by the end of round one, that's kind of it now for takedowns. Now it's a kickboxing battle. And the exchange of shots I saw in round one, Conor got the better of them. There was once or twice, again, expected Dustin's lead check hook. And it did land once or twice, but it wasn't a huge amount on it. And that's why I said to him in between the rounds, just keep the backhand high, which he did. And he checked a few of them in the second round. So going into the second, I felt energy's great. Probably the takedown attempts are if not over, Conor's very switched on for them. Even in the gym, sometimes he'll give up a takedown in the first. And then guys are going to level change on me. And he's very good at sprawling. So very confident about that side of it. And landed some good, the left hand landed. He got a nice jab, a few nice jabs. So we're going to start going into a nice kickboxing battle here. Mm-hmm. And Conor is one of the best in the world at that. But then those damn pesky peroneal nerve kicks.
And so I have to ask you, last week when we spoke, there was a moment in our interview where you had mentioned training orthodox, and then you said to cut that out. Would you like to clear the air on that? Because as you know, I have been flooded with a lot of hate from the McGregor. It's like either I'm shilling for McGregor or I've just stabbed him in the back. I was getting it from all sides last week. So because I will say, once I saw that lead leg getting chopped like that with those kicks, I was wondering, oh, maybe we'll go orthodox. Now, of course, you still have to put pressure on that leg, but I was like, okay, now's the orthodox training gonna kick in.
How funny would that have been if he had to switch to orthodox? So, that was the kind.
Did I wrong?
Yeah.
Please clear it up, John. Did I wrong you?
No, you did not. So that
Okay.
was a wee tongue-in-cheek joke. And afterwards, of course, Ariel messaged me and said, "Oh, I'll remove that straight away." And I said, "No, leave it in. It's just a little bit of fun with the fans." I didn't think Dustin's team would take it serious, and I didn't think the fans would be as, because I got so many messages. They had my back. They were, "Coach, you've got to get on there. He's at to doing you wrong. He's at to leaving that in." So yeah, apologies about that. Just a little bit of fun.
Was there any thought to switch stances? Does that, for the like the layman fan, would that even change anything?
It would certainly be a strong indicator to your opponent that something's up.
Right.
If we're the one that initiated them and we force the opponent to switch stance, I tell you what I'm going to be telling them to do: run after that back leg and keep it going, because it's one of those techniques that really 2 or 3, maybe maximum 4 proper clean connections, and that's it. It's, if anybody's ever experienced cracking their elbow and you hit that funny nerve, that electric shock you get, it's a similar it's a nerve damage rather than like a sore muscle or a body shot or something that you could kind of get through it. You just can't. It's just it's on or it's off, and you just switch the bottom half of the leg is off. And when he kind of slipped the shot and Dustin caught a nice kind of an uppercut, he went to transfer his body weight onto the right leg, and it just gave, and he just went down, and then that was the end of that. So we definitely have to fix that. He, as usual, obsessive personality. We were, because it was actually over before lunchtime. It was weird, we kind of had the day together to talk about it, and we had discussed it in the training camp. But like I said, not surprised by the kicks being thrown, but very surprised by the effectiveness of the technique. So we will add it to our arsenal. I thought we did well in pretty much every other part of the fight. I would have loved to see a couple of more rounds and some more grappling exchanges, and if some more punches back and forward, because he needs time in the cage. So I think he got, what did we get, 7.5 minutes or something in that fight. So at least we're racking up the minutes. I hope there's a lot more minutes this year.
And I will ask you about that in one quick second. Just curious, what, if anything, could he have done to better protect his leg, to check those kicks?
Well, you see, actually, in the very opening sequence, he's not there. There's a very nice one. We're in the first 30 seconds maybe, where Dustin tries to kick the lead leg and he pulls it back very fast. A bit shorter stance on the toes, on the bounce, lead leg back. And then he went in and threw some shots. So that's number one. That's the best. Just don't be there, because even option number 2, where we point the foot out 45 degrees, you're still taking it. That's kind of the option where you weren't fast enough. The timing wasn't there to get the lead leg out of the way. So you've got to turn out the foot. And he actually did that quite well. You see, there was at least 2 times where he points the foot out, catches the lead leg and throws a punch, or, ends up with kind of like a single leg position where he's controlling Dustin's leg. And I was really hoping that would put Dustin off throwing any more of them, but he didn't. He kept with them, and Conor just 2 or 3 of them landed, and then it didn't even matter. You could try to check, and it's so compromised at that stage that not a whole lot we can do about it at that point. But next time we'll be in a different way. We'll have a different approach to it. We'll make sure that technique is part of our arsenal, and it won't happen. So he's as with Diaz one, he's very, very few people in the world lose better than Conor. And I mean that in terms of the grace shown afterwards. but also taking the lessons from it.
Mm.
And he will certainly, we will have a solution to that going back in.
So you
Even
alluded to,
when.
yes, you alluded to the fact that you guys have talked a little bit about the next step, the future. What does he want to do next?
Well, he's already harassing everybody to get the rematch. So we would love the rematch. I don't think Dustin is against that. Yeah, if we could get the rematch before the summer, that'd be amazing. If it's not to be, well then I guess I don't really know. Maybe he drifts off into the boxing. So if the MMA community could help me out here and get behind me and pester the UFC to give him another fight sooner rather than later, so I don't kind of lose him for 6 months to boxing, I'd appreciate that.
So to be clear, the trilogy fight, right, against Dustin Poirier,
Yes,
is what you guys
yes.
want.
Yeah,
Not,
we're 1-1,
yep.
so we get him the rematch after the first win, and I hope he returns the sentiment.
So last week, obviously, I asked you about a dream fight. You had mentioned Diaz. That one can wait, right?
Yeah, if the fight had went our way, I think
Yeah.
it would have been nice to look at Diaz for possibly the belt in the summer. And now things have changed. Chandler went in there and looked phenomenal, a big knockout. But it is his first fight in the UFC. So yeah, this is the one. This is the one that is I can see is lighting the fire underneath him. Like I said this morning, we were on the yacht and I was looking for him, and Orla said he's down the gym. Go downstairs, and he had to do like an hour-long tough weights workout. That's the morning after a very tough fight. So that shows you where he is here.
So I was thinking after the fight, man, I kind of feel bad for Dustin, especially now that Khabib isn't coming back. That fight should have been for a belt. He should be the champion. I actually kind of feel like the fact that it wasn't for a belt helps Conor in this regard, because now you could say, all right, let's do it for the vacant title, because it's very clear that Khabib isn't coming back anytime soon. Had it been for the belt, people would say, oh, he doesn't deserve another crack at the title, all this stuff. But now it feels like it's 1-1. Now let's do it for a title. Do you agree with that sentiment? Like, do you guys want this fight to be for the belt as well?
I love the way you're thinking, Ariel. I love the way you're thinking. You're back to being a shill for the
That's right. Well, I mean, it's just
yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. That's the big drive. That's the big. That's the story. It's 1-1, one apiece. They're right up there in the rankings. They're very popular fighters, the two of them. I think they have a beautiful matchup. I think it's stylistically, it's beautiful to watch. I'd love to see lots and lots of rounds of the two of them. Dustin has obviously he's riding high with confidence now, and with the more experience and the more weight, he took some of those shots, and I'm sure his confidence is super high at the moment. We have to fix that technique with the leg and watch out for a couple of other things as well. But Dustin v. Conor 3 for the belt in, I don't know, maybe May or something like that. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the leg. So May would, obviously he has to heal up. Would May be enough time to heal up and then go through? Okay.
Yeah. It's not, there's no bone damage. It's not, that was part of my conversation in his ears. Like, it's not the Holloway. You've not destroyed a ligament here. This is a sore leg. It's a sore leg, and it will pass. And yes, it still is quite. It's like scary looking, the swelling. But we're on top of it with the icing, with the anti-inflammatories. Keeping it elevated, doing all the right stuff. But he did a workout today. He did an upper body workout today. He can do almost anything. I would say within 7 to 10 days maximum, we'll be back full training. And then, as far away as May would be months and months. And he's already in phenomenal shape. He had hoped to be fighting every couple of weeks. So, no big damage taken. So yeah, he'll be ready to go.
Just a couple more things, if I can. Weight cut, okay? Like, any concerns about going back to 55? Were they alleviated?
He's built for that. He's ideally built for that. It was a very gentle water cut the morning of, and it's actually really nice doing weigh-ins out here. You weigh in at 3 p.m. on Friday, and you fight Sunday at 9 a.m. You get 2 nights sleep. It feels like forever. You actually did a hard workout on the Saturday, the fight day, which would be normal fight day. Wow. And then went to bed that night and then got up and did a work, obviously went to the fight on Sunday morning. So yeah, no, Tristan, who was taking care of that, has done an amazing job. And Conor's discipline of approaching this as a year-round approach, not, trying to kind of get the weight down in a rush near the end. Everything was done gradually and correctly.
A lot of the talk going into the fight was he's too nice. Where's the old Conor, the trash talking Conor? Where's the fire? It doesn't feel like he's there. I saw a lot of the athletes, a lot of people comment on his fight, and they're on Twitter. And I saw a basketball player, Damian Lillard, who's a very famous basketball player, said it didn't feel like it was the same old Conor and that he was too nice. There's no fire. Do you subscribe to that? Like, I know you said Khabib kind of sometimes, it brings out the worst in him, and that's maybe too far on the spectrum, but do you feel like the old Conor has to come back, the Aldo poking the bear Conor, that guy needs to come back in order to be at his best?
It's funny. This was all, we both got our DMs flooded with people upset with your not putting out my game plan. And in the lead up to the Cerrone fight, I had every psychologist on planet Earth warning me that he is messing up. Conor needs to be that guy. And the fact he's shaking Cerrone's hand and being nice at the interviews, be nice at the press conference, nice at the weigh-ins. Everybody was warning me, and if you went in and lost to Cerrone, this is what they'd be saying. We warned you. He's got to be that guy. You went in and smoked him in 40 seconds. It didn't go away this time. So, of course, everybody's prediction is now correct. If that left hand that wobbled him had have dropped him in the first, we'd all be saying, oh, I guess he doesn't need to do that. So no, Conor can certainly hit that switch. He's, as we see, as he's said many times, he's massively respectful of Dustin and appreciative of the skill level. But he wanted to take his head off. Mm-hmm. There was no doubt about that. He wasn't pulling any punches in the cage. Got those nice shoulder shots. Actually, Dustin was doing his own little shoulder shots as well, which is quite funny. So no, I don't subscribe to that at all. I do think it's important for some to have that attitude, but Conor is such a veteran of the game, and he can turn it on and off like a light switch at this stage, to be honest.
I want to ask you about something that bothers me, and it has nothing to do with Conor. It bothered me dating back to when Rashad Evans was knocked out by Lyoto Machida over a decade ago, when Daniel Cormier was crying in the middle of the cage after losing to John Jones, and it came up again in this fight. And I think it's you spoke about people being afraid to fail, and I don't know if fighters are afraid to fail per se, but I do think that the times that we are living in, people become these memes, right? And fighters in particular get mocked after losses, and it bothers me. Like I can't imagine, someone sitting at home mocking a fight. And I know it's personal, and you hate this guy and you want this guy, but as a coach who's in there and you bleed and you sweat with these guys and you go through these training camps, and then you see people mocking the fighter. Conor's a big boy; he can handle it. He's dealt with it all. These fighters can all handle it. For some reason, it bothers me. Derek Brunson wrote something about it. Like, hey, before you make that meme, think if and he was spot on. Does it annoy you though? Does it get under your skin? Does it make you want to like lash out at these people? Because golly, like these fighters are so courageous. They deserve so much of our respect, and it bothers. And again, it has nothing to do with Conor. I felt the same way. The Rashad one that I'm talking about, right? With his eyes back and people.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I'll be honest and say I'm quite careful with my social media and how I curate who I follow on Twitter and Instagram and so on. And I haven't seen any now. I've no doubt there's a million out there, but I think everybody, it might be some advice, and I've given it to my own fight team, and I would give it to anybody, is be very careful who you follow, who you allow into your head, and what you're looking at online, whether it's through Instagram or Twitter. There's such amazing content producers out there, such uplifting material between, good news stations that are just coming, keeping us up to date on the vaccine production and better medical treatments coming through, comparing how we are now with 100 years ago, and all of these sort of uplifting messages. And that's who I follow online. And if I come across something that's negative, I'll just kind of quickly block or remove from my timeline. So I think that's important. You do that, I could imagine how easy it would be to slip into that mindset of, getting angry and reading, looking at messages. I remember there was some with what's her name? Oh God, I'm getting so
Ronda
bad with
Rousey.
Ronda Rousey.
Yep.
Some nasty messages as well. And we're not going to change people. That's humans are humans. So I love following you on Twitter and other Twitter users that are interesting, that are positive, and there's plenty of them. So follow those ones and get rid of the negative ones.
Fair enough. Finally, if I could ask you, you mentioned, no one, Conor loses very well. And obviously we're not talking about the actual fight itself. It's how he handles the fight. I was getting deja vu watching him at the press conference. It reminded me very much of 2016 and Diaz. And of course that led to the great rematch and maybe his best performance ever against Eddie Alvarez. So we'll see what this translates into. Was Conor always like this? Or is this, like, can you learn to be like this, or is just something in you? Like, do you remember old Conor when he would get roughed up in the gym, or the Joe Duffy fight? Did he not react to fights this way, or losses or setbacks this way, or is this something that's always been a part of who he is?
Yeah, no, it was learned, and I have a couple of kind of speeches that I sort of have at the ready, and I travel around, kids' schools in Ireland, talking to kids about motivation and hard work and so on. But that is one I talk about. I say I train the best losers in the world. And I talk about when I compare, and it's why I keep on harping about the Diaz 2 fight, why it's so important to me. And it's because of this story that can be passed on to next generation. I'll be telling my son about this. And if I compare when Conor lost to I don't really remember the Duffy exactly how he reacted to that, but I do remember there was one. Is it Sidnikov? It was kind of a Russian name fighter. He got submitted quite quickly, and it was actually the first fight where he had brought all his family and friends, and he was getting this reputation in Dublin as being the hardest guy around. And then this very tiny little Russian guy submitted him quite quickly, and he disappeared on me. He disappeared on me for months after that, and the little had disappeared with some of my ticket money as well. So he was gone. So he fell off the map for quite a while, and that's when his mom contacted me to say, can you get this guy back in the gym? And and here we are. So I would say to anybody out there, yes, and when I talk about fighters, I think it's applicable to everything. But when I get down to the nuts and bolts of it with fighters, they're never worried about injury. They're crazy young guys that they're going to live forever. They're only ever worried about being embarrassed, looking bad in front of girlfriend, family, whatever. And it's about understanding. And that's why in the gym, I try to create this environment where it's very safe to fail, that we know that when the contest is over, whether you win or lose, you are going to be still loved by the people that matter to you. You're going to, the people that know you, your teammates have seen you train for this fight. They will know that you did all that you could, and you will live with it very comfortably even. So I think that's the overriding message with mixed martial arts competition is to not be paralyzed by the fear of failure, that you are going to have losses. It's even somewhat different to the pro boxing game in terms of, we kind of know it's almost like a wink and a nudge amongst that world, that you're going to probably get to 10-0, 15-0 if you have a good manager. And you're a bit of a prospect, and then by the time you get to 18, 19, even 20-0, then you have your test. And the commentators almost kind of say that, okay, here's his first test, and he's 20-0. Try to do that in MMA. You're not getting to 20-0 in MMA, and very few have done that. So it's a lot more. We're a lot more accepting of it. We expect people to slip and fall and trip and have mistakes, and we love the comeback story. We love the Diaz one, the Diaz two versus Diaz one. Dustin doing it to us, losing so devastatingly a couple of years ago. Very, very one-sided contest, and then he comes back and he figures out a technique, and he goes in with his game plan. He gets the one over us, and the lads backstage meet and shake hands and have a bit of it like, hey, that's 1-1 now. Don't go running on me. That's the beauty of this. That's what keeps me involved in this. That's why I enjoy it so much, and that's the world that I keep myself in mentally, in that circle of people that respect each other and understand and are not don't fall apart over the idea of let's say they do the rematch for the belt. When and Artem used to say this actually, when the crowd's watching the two fighters walking into the cage, it's not like they overly think about, oh well, he's had a few losses. That's not, you're in that moment of like, oh my God, this is going to be great. What's going to happen in this fight? And Dustin's had his couple of losses. Conor's had his couple of losses. That's the sport. If you keep testing yourself at the highest level, that's what's going to happen.
John, I appreciate it very much. Always look forward to these chats before the fights, after the fights, regardless of what happens. In a weird way, sometimes the ones after the losses are even more fascinating to see the way in which you guys handle it. And I think you actually gain new fans after the losses, even more so than after the wins. Because as you said, people always like a comeback story, a reclamation project. So it's all very reminiscent of March of 2016. I look forward to the comeback. I appreciate the time. Enjoy your time over there in UAE, and thank you as always for making a little bit of time for me and for showing up each and every time.
Thank you very much for having me on, as always.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.